You need to be prepared for the aftermath of this drug shortage. And in fact, the drug shortage itself could be a weapon of fifth generation warfare. And I'm going to explain how right now. So we've had multiple reports of the US facing a critical drug shortage coming out. And in fact, the Daily Mail put out an article on December 7th that revealed the number of medications in short supply rose 30% between 2021 and 2022. And we have lack of treatments for cancer and pneumonia, which is obviously going to have fatal consequences. But one part of this equation that's not getting as much focus from the media is the fact that we also have a mental health drug shortage. And this is a big deal because that can lead to some very dangerous situations. And we're already facing a mental health crisis here in the US ever since 2020 that has gotten much, much worse. And of course, obviously, we know that wind-up toys are being let loose all over the country, which is something you should consider when we go into the fifth generation warfare phase of this conversation. Now, one thing I got to mention is that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. And of course, they allow me to get out here, get prepared, and make videos like this to keep you informed as to what you should be anticipating moving forward. So a big thanks to Midway USA. Now, how is this fifth generation warfare, and why could these drug shortages be related to the fact that we are currently at war with China, whether or not you want to admit it, right? Well, here's the thing. New articles have been put out, which I wasn't aware of until I started doing some more research, that contradict what we've been told about China producing 90% of the world's APIs, or active pharmaceutical ingredients. Now, this information is being put out by what I would most likely consider to be a biased source, and that's the US-China Business Council. And they're claiming that, in all actuality, China only produces 6% of all APIs. But for years, even in congressional testimony, we were told that that number was closer to 90%. So what happened here? Why are these numbers suddenly so much different? And why are we even being told that they were changed? Because in reality, it wouldn't really matter if it's 6% or 100%. We should try to produce as much of those APIs here in the US as possible, right? Well, there's some key information that was left out from that report, and I have a feeling I know why. So, in April of 2022, Nikkei Asia actually put out an article called The Great Medicines Migration, and it explains the cope that we're trying to deal with now from the US-China Business Council. And what do I mean by that? Well, KSMs are not APIs. KSMs are key starting materials, and they are the raw materials that API manufacturers have to import no matter where they are produced, and they come mainly from China. So they're skewing the numbers now to make it seem as if we actually don't rely on China for our pharmaceuticals. But in reality, we do. We need all of the raw materials from China still, even if we produce the APIs here stateside. So China still controls the entire pharmaceutical industry in that way. And yet somehow we're facing these drug shortages once again. And of course, it's always because of supply chain issues and logistics. And of course, the media is trying to spin it like it's due to profiteering by the pharmaceutical companies. But in reality, controlling an entire world's pharmaceutical trade allows you to have a lot of control and leverage over the population, and allows you to create more chaos when it comes to unleashing fifth generation warfare. Now, one thing I got to say is that this channel is supported by Genesis Gold Group, and they do not affiliate with China at all, but they do affiliate with gold and silver. So if you're trying to roll a retirement account over into a gold-backed IRA or stabilize some of your wealth with precious metals assets, check out magicpeppergold.com, because not only will they help you do those things or even send precious metals directly to your front door if that's what you want, they also do not affiliate with China, where many gold groups actually do. So make sure you check out Genesis Gold Group and say, you know, Magic Pepper sent you. That being said, this is fifth generation warfare in many ways. And why am I even trying to equate that to that? Because it's multifaceted. It's every single aspect of our lives at this point in time. And people don't want to admit it or don't want to acknowledge it because it seems so science fictional. It seems like something that couldn't actually be happening. But I am here to tell you that yes, it is actually happening, and everything needs to be looked at through that lens of being in an active wartime scenario with our adversaries. And China is, in fact, our adversary whether or not you want to believe it. And when China controls all of the key starting materials, which are required to produce the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are needed for all these drugs that are suddenly in a critical shortage here in the US, and those critical shortages are leading to people who have cancer dying, people who have pneumonia dying, and people who have mental health problems that need medication to keep themselves to, let's just say, a stable level of societal acceptance. Well, those people start to have issues. And some of these articles are referencing the fact that people are waiting years for medication. It's not just waiting a week or two. Like, we're having people with diagnosed mental health conditions not receive the medication they need for anywhere up to a year, 2 years, 5 years. It just depends on how bad this shortage is getting. And this is why you need to prepare for the aftermath of this whole scenario, because it's part of this campaign of chaos, which makes our country weaker, which means that we are easier to overtake economically once that time comes, unless we do something about it, which the United States only really has one trick up its sleeve when it comes to doing something about it. And that's also a very dangerous and problematic scenario. And it might be a necessary one at some point in time. But you have to start looking at everything through that lens. If you looked at this drug shortage as just being a drug shortage, you would just be like, well, I should make sure I have what I need, which I highly suggest. And I would also, need to verify if I'm going to need other drugs in the future that could be in short supply. Like, those are all good ideas when it comes to planning for your preparedness. And of course, Jace Medical, for example, even offers ways for you to get additional refills for your prescription drugs and things of that nature if that's something you need. I'll have a link for them down below, and I'll also link the Nikkei Asia article that I referenced down there too, so you can actually read up on the key KSM, key starting materials thing that I brought up, because a lot of people probably are unaware of that. And these new articles stating that these numbers were completely wrong for a long period of time, well, that's part of the propaganda that's being put out there in order to create more confusion and more chaos regarding this fifth generation warfare activity. I mean, that's just what it is now. So I'm bringing this to your attention not only so you can prepare yourselves when it comes to lack of medication, not only so you can prepare yourselves when it comes to people who have mental health disorders not receiving the treatment they require, which makes everything slightly more dangerous no matter how you want to look at it. That's just the truth of the matter. I also want you to be aware of the fact that this is because we're under attack, not just because of an accident in the supply chain, not just because of logistical issues. We're past that point now. I know I've been trying to drive this conversation home for a while on the channel now, but if you only looked at it from the face value of a drug shortage, you would understand that drugs might be in short supply. But if you looked at it further and started realizing that the conversation has been changed, the data has been changed, the numbers have been changed to move things towards a different narrative, to make you feel more comfortable about these shortages, to make you feel like it might be something that isn't necessarily related to China, then you start to realize what this really is. And that helps you understand why preparing for it is that much more important. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Obviously, the drug shortages are a problem no matter what. But what do you think about the fifth generation warfare link to this concept? And why do you think it might be important for us to pay attention to these things in the future? I'm trying to give you things to think about, and I'm trying to open your eyes to what's really happening in the world right now, because it's hard to keep track of it all with everything going on in our daily lives when groceries are unaffordable, utilities are getting more expensive, and people aren't sure where they're going to live next month, right? So I get it. That's why I'm here trying to do that for you. Anything else you need from me, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.